Bronte Campbell, you made a huge decision around the Olympics. What is actually required to go another round?
Everything. That level of intensity and pain that I was often in was not sustainable.
The strategy that gets you to the top is not the same strategy that keeps you there.
What's very interesting about swimming is that you compete against each other for 48 weeks of the year, and then all of those people that you were just competing against, those are now your teammates. I think Kate and I were uniquely positioned to model this. I mean, from the time I was 13 years old, I was training with the third best person in the world. The ability to tolerate the friction of competition and still find a way to have a personal connection. It's a difference between a gold and silver medal. As I get older, the things that get put in the sacrifice pile, not be able to work on my business in the way that I want to do, not living close to my friends and family, when that pile becomes bigger than the thing that you're hoping to achieve, that's where it's no longer in alignment, it's not worth it. I have to take a step back and evaluate for myself what's working and what's not.
Bronte, you've had a huge 6 months. You've gotten married, you've had ACL surgery, and most recently you've made a huge decision around swimming and retirement. Take us through that. How are you feeling right now and the process you went through to get to that decision?
Yeah, I feel great. The more time that goes on, the more it feels like the correct decision. And I made the decision to retire from swimming, but I didn't make it very quickly or very lightly. I took 18 months to come to this decision. So I waited until it felt completely right. And I always said like June, July of 2026, if I wanted to start training for LA, that was when I'd come back and get in the pool. And as I got closer to that milestone, I was like, well, we have to make a decision. We have to make a call one way or the other. And I could really see the future where I kept on swimming. I could see what that looked like. I'd planned it out with the coach that I would be going with, planned out with him what that 2-year lead-in would look like. I knew where I'd have to be. I knew where I'd have to move to. I'd have to move back to Canberra. And I knew what that process was going to be. And I just had to equally look at what the other side of it was and try that on. So a few months ago, I just said, okay, well, why don't I just pretend that I've made the decision to stop, and I will just start pretending that that's my entire future and just see how that feels for 2 or 3 months. Because I had the time to do it, I could really try and put myself in that situation. And humans in general are quite bad at predicting how they're going to feel in the future. We're terrible at this. We're like, oh, when we get to this time, I'll feel great about X. Like, it's maybe part of what the lies we tell ourselves to keep ourselves moving forward. But it was nice to be able to really try it on properly and be like, oh, actually, this does feel very correct. And then since announcing it, I thought maybe there would be a shift of, oh, maybe it's a bit of regret because now it feels very final. But I haven't felt that. So that's maybe reiterates that it was the right thing.
I mean, you've got so many exciting things going on in your personal life and business life. And I guess, I don't know if it's exactly this, but I imagine there's these are all the things I'm doing and enjoying. And to go back and to do another Olympic cycle, you know that very well, like the dedication and the commitment. Can you just take us through what that has been previously and what that would have looked like, and I guess the things that you would have had to give up? Because I don't think people really truly understand in sports such as swimming and athletics, which of course there's world championships and all of that, but really, the Olympics is the big competition. It's every 4 years. What is actually required to go another round?
Everything is required. It is not a job. It is every moment of every day is dedicated towards that pursuit. And that doesn't mean you're training for every moment of every day, but it dictates your recovery. It dictates what you eat, where you eat it, when you eat it. It dictates your entire sleeping schedule. And it is all encompassing for me anyway. That's the only way that I know how to get performance. And I mean, it looks like 6 hours a day, at least, in a training environment, either at the pool or at the gym. It's probably another 4 hours of active recovery stuff that I do outside of that. And then it looks like getting as much sleep as possible. Sleep is so critical for me for recovery. It looks like putting dedicated time in the middle of my day to sleep, which
Okay.
it's a luxury to have a nap. It's also a pain in the ass when you're trying to get things done. So really it is, and probably the thing I miss the most when I'm in full training is the energy that is going into the pool and the feeling of being very tired most of the time just saps my creativity and my creative energy and creative thought. And I find it very hard to get into that space when I'm quite depleted and all the energy is going into physical exertion. It's really hard to get my brain firing. And so I miss that when I'm in very heavy training. I miss my brain working properly or like it does when it's well rested, when my body's well rested. And yeah, I like to think about it. The word sacrifice is used a lot in sport. And if you think about sacrifice as something, giving up something of value in order to try and obtain something of even more value, that's a really great way for me to think about it, because I've had to give up things of value to get to the places that I want to go. As I get older, the things that get put in the sacrifice pile, things like moving cities again, things like having to not be able to work on my business in the way that I want to do, not living close to my friends and family. I mean, my husband and I, we've been together for 10 years. I've lived in a different city for 5 years, purely for training, so that I could chase the dreams and make them happen. It's things like, what do I want to do in my family life? What does that look like? Do I really want to continue to plan that around a 4-year Olympic cycle? So those things just get bigger and weightier. And so when that pile becomes bigger than the thing that you're hoping to chase or achieve, that's where it's no longer in alignment. It's not worth it. And I wasn't necessarily doing such a calculated decision making. I wasn't doing a pros and cons list. I was more looking at like, how does each one of these futures feel to me? Which one feels fuller and richer and better for me in the long run?
Love that. And, it's not just, I guess, the individual sacrifice. It's the people around you, your husband, your family, your friends. As you said, it's really going all in on something incredibly exceptional, which very few people have done. And, I think the really interesting thing I've heard you say before, at 7 years old, I wanted to be an Olympian. And I'm sure there's a lot of 7-year-olds have thought, I want to be an Olympian, but very few go on to become one, let alone a 4-time Olympian with 3 gold medals and, 11 world championship medals. And a few go on to not only achieve it, but do that for a period of time. And one thing I really talk about as a philosophy that I've seen with high-performing individuals across industries is the strategy that gets you to the top is not the same strategy that keeps you there. And I feel like having gotten to know you and your career, you've really adopted that. Maybe not necessarily thinking that's exactly what you did, but you definitely have lived and embodied that.
It's really interesting. I never really thought about it like that, but there is definitely a difference in my mindset and approach as I was in my younger years and in my younger career versus the things that I needed and the things that I did later in my career. So yes, for me, definitely getting to the top and staying at the top or staying near the top has looked very different. I actually have never thought about it like that. And maybe it's because I always just thought it was me being very young versus me being more experienced and older. But it has required very different things. And I've had very different mindset and approach at each one of the stages. And some of that is probably youth and inexperience. I mean, my first Olympics, I turned 18 a month before. I was such a tiny baby and very absolute and very like black and white. As you said, when I was 7, I decided I wanted to go to the Olympics, and then I was very intense about it. I was like probably more intense about my training when I was 7 than I was when I was 17. I actually had to learn to let go a little bit. So I think there's been different developmental stages, but then my management of my career as I've gotten older and moved into I'd say the second half of my career happened after I got injured. I have a shoulder injury, started as a nerve injury. It's just an ongoing thing. No one 100% knows what it is. And the management of that has taken me to a whole different level. When I was talking about those 6 hours a day in the training environment, 2 hours at a time, you might be in the pool training. But I get to the pool an hour before that, and I've got a bunch of prehab exercises to do, and I stay an hour afterwards. There's a bunch of like post-training exercises I have to do. And if we train twice a day, that's 4 hours at the pool each
Since
time.
the shoulder, since the nerve injury.
Yeah. So in order to continue at the top, the things that I need to do look way more like spending more time in rest, more time in recovery, more time on like tiny little exercises, more time on settling my central nervous system. All of that requires way more time and energy. I didn't spend any time or energy on any of those things when I was 17. I didn't need to, but now I have to do those. And so it takes a lot more time, even though because I'm older and I've got training age in my body, the work that's required to get me to the level in the pool is less. Like when I had 18 months off in 2021 and I started training again, and I was shocked by how quickly it came back. I did not expect it to come back that quickly. And
the speed and the pace and
the speed, the power, the pace, the strength.
Yeah.
Like we do a lot of chin-ups, like pull-ups in our training for strength. I have not done a pull-up for 2 years, and my husband set up a gym in the garage, and I pulled out the old weight belt that we used to use. You like add weight to your chin-ups. I was like, I wonder if I could do a 15 kilo chin-up just like right now. And I was like, let me try. I don't know if I can after 2 years. 2 years of like not touching it at all. And I did 3. And I was like, it's still there. Like your body just remembers so much. Whereas when I was 17, I'm pretty sure doing 15 kilos was my PB of doing 1. So your body holds a lot. So you have to do less work on that, but just way more in recovery and injury. So yes, the things that like I used to have to work hard at, probably I've mastered a little bit more. I don't have to work as hard at, but there comes a whole host of other things that take its place.
And that process, I mean, imagine there was a lot of sports physicians and physios and a lot of great, experts around you, but how much of that was people advising and influencing you, and how much of that was you experimenting or getting curious on strategies that would, take you through that phase and beyond?
That's a very good question because it changed quite a bit. So I'd had other injuries. I'd had hip injury and a bunch of other things before, but in 2016, that was when the shoulder injury sort of reared its head. It was about 5 months out from 2016 Olympics, which is not an amazing time to have a mystery injury.
And was it just you woke up one day or in a training session it kind of went, or you woke up with it, or how did it?
Yeah, I think I was swimming within like a 50-meter distance. It went from being a sort of normal tightish pain in my shoulder to like pain, numbness, and weakness down my left arm. So it was just within that. I wasn't even doing anything out of the ordinary. We think it was a virus that attacked my nerve, attacked the sheath of my nerve. But no one really knew. I didn't know. I probably didn't even properly know how to describe the pain. And I also didn't want it to be true. So there was a lot of downplaying it to myself and others. And in that phase, that very first phase, 5 months out from my second Olympics, where I was going in as the reigning world champion, I just decided to like lock onto the things that I knew to be true. And those were doing 45 kilo chin-ups. It was doing all the 9 swim sessions, the distances that I need to do, getting my lactate up really high, which is like very aggravating to your central nervous system, which was obviously not great if I've got a nerve injury. Didn't really know it was a nerve injury at the time. Doing exactly what any physio told me. Like I just went to the physio, I was like, okay, great, this is the plan. I'm just going to do that. Not paying attention to the fact that some of those exercises were making my shoulder feel worse. I was just like, well, this is the plan. I just have got to do it. That idea of like ignoring pain or pushing pain aside, which is very useful when you're trying to push your limits in the pool, but less useful when you're looking at an injury. There was a lot of that, and I thought that was a very winning mindset to do like a mind over matter. What it actually resulted in was me not being able to do all the training I could do. And by the time I got to the Olympics, I was doing like 70% of the load that I would need to do. And I knew that going in, which is, it's also a thing you have to lie to yourself about. You still have to walk out behind the blocks, and like you still got to look down the lane. You still got to be like, well, like look out, I'm gonna smash this. And I was honestly surprised by the level of performance I was able to get to versus the level of training I'd been able to do. But in the wake of 2016, I was like, this is not a winning mindset. I can't just be locked onto these things that I know to be true. I have to take a step back and evaluate for myself what's working and what's not. I can't just listen to like absolute truth of what people are saying to me, because no one had a definite answer. I also had to stop looking for the problem and just start working on the solution. I spent a lot of energy being like, oh, if I can't figure out exactly what's wrong with this, how could we ever solve it? And what's been the journey since then is that you can still find strategies and solutions even if you never find out what the exact problem is. It's just a longer road. It requires a little bit more creativity. It requires a lot more trial and error, but it's still possible. But yeah, that was like a 2-year journey after that. And then to the point now where like my preparation for Paris Olympics, I can manage my shoulder so well because I've got a bunch of different techniques from Western and Eastern medicine. And I'll know if it's feeling this certain way. I'm like, okay, I know I need to go do some heavy isometrics. I'll just go do that before it ever becomes a problem. But that took a very long time. And it was a different mindset. It was like, try everything, give it a moment of time, evaluate if it works. If it doesn't, move on. And that was a lot more taking the ownership on myself and seeking those people out myself. And not to say that I did this all by myself. There was like a core team around me. There was all the people I consulted with and reached out to who said, yes, I'll help you. And it really was a team effort, but it was a lot more ownership, where before it was like the moment I got injured, it was like, okay, you're in the sporting system, go see this physio.
These are your people.
Do exactly what you say, what this person says. And those people were saying things that were mainly correct as well, but I just needed more than one point of view. I needed more than one way to address it in order to fix it, especially because we couldn't figure out what it actually was.
And it's quite remarkable that there was another eight years of performing at this peak level with this, injury that needed to be managed and was still there. And for a lot of people, I think, regardless of how incredible they are as an athlete, that could really be just too much. So your mindset and the evolution of your mindset speaks to, I think, everything you're doing, not just in your athletic career, but some of the other ventures that you've moved into now as well, and that will serve you really incredibly well. I
mean, it was too much. It was often too much. Like I had to have a break in 2018. I took 3 months off after the Commonwealth Games because I couldn't handle being in that much pain all the time. Wow. It was so draining to me. I had to give myself that break. Same with like after Tokyo Olympics. It was like, I can get to the Olympics, I can do that, but I have to have a break after that. So I had to build in spaces where I could step away from it, because it is very intense. And that's definitely what I learned, is that for long-term performance, that level of intensity and pain that I was often in was not sustainable for 4 years at a time. So I had to pick my periods of when I could step into it and have the time, knowing the time was going to be there to step out of it. It made it more bearable. Like the moment I decided to have a 3-month break in 2018, literally like that week, my pain decreased by like half.
And even like your nervous system, just
Yes,
how you...
the whole, it was like, I mean, it was at the end of 2017 when I decided that. And it went from, I have to be in this amount of pain and be doing this amount of, it's just constant iterating, constantly trying to second guess yourself. Like how much is this helping me? How much is pushing good and pushing bad? Is this level of pain acceptable? Is this type of pain acceptable? Is it going to snowball into something bigger? Is it actually okay to step back? Do I need to spend another 2 hours on this? That constant like decision making is exhausting. But just giving myself an end date for it instantly reduced the pain, because in 2017, I was like, I want to go to the Olympics. So I'm going to have to do this for another 3 years. But I changed it to I'm only going to have to do this in another 6 months. And the physical pain reduced, which is so interesting to me that mind and body are not separate. They're intertwined. And I take this into business now too, because there's going to be times when things are really difficult and really busy. And you said my last 6 months has been big. In the middle of that, there was a capital raise. I literally walked out of my wedding, and the next day we launched our capital raise. Wow. And I think I had like 4 days at home at any time during that time. And I was also trying to be present for other people's weddings that were on at that time. That was an insane month. And I walked straight out of that capital raise into my ACL surgery. And I got on the operating table. I was looking up at those big lights. I was like, I'm so happy to go to sleep. Like, just give me the drugs. I just want to be asleep. But I could do all of that because I knew that there was an end point. And I knew that there was going to be a time where I could take a beat. And I don't think I could have done it without knowing that. So,
and you also know your capability and your capacity. You know, I really believe everyone has different levels of capacity, and you know, when you are able to, when you're so mentally resilient and growth mindset and you've achieved so much, like people do have different levels of capacity. But when you've kind of played at those edges for a while and gone, okay, I know what too much is, I know what I can manage, or I know what I can manage for a season. Because they're maybe not the ACL surgery, although it provided a lot of rest, but there are all some very exciting life things all happening at the same time.
Yes, I mean, I wouldn't say an ACL surgery is recommended holiday, but it was like, this date is booked in. Yeah. You will not be able to move after that. You literally have to stop.
We moved it a few times.
Yes. Yeah. I did. So, yes, I moved the surgery till after my wedding and then after the capital raise so that I could do things that are most important to me, like dancing at my own wedding, which I didn't really want to sacrifice just to have a brand new ACL.
It's all decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to rewind a bit into swimming and Australian swimming and, you know, not just what you did in the pool, but what you did for the culture of the sport and the policy, because I find swimming very interesting. It's one of the few sports where you're competing against people 98% of the time, and then for a very short period of time, your teammates. And that balance of we're competitors, I don't know if you say enemies, but competitors. And now we're on the same team. We're on a relay team, some of which who may have pipped you at the post and be swimming in the individual events, and now we're competing in a team. And I've heard you and Kate talking previously about how some of that was potentially received, I think more so for her in her first Olympics. And then the work that got done as such to change that culture, which you were both a really key part of. Can you just take us through that, navigating that? Because I think there's a lot here that can extrapolate out to teams and businesses where people might be up for promotions or whatever. I think there's just like culture as a whole in a high-performing team or environment. There's a lot to extrapolate out from, even though this is quite a unique one within itself.
No, I think it's very similar. I mean, I had a period of time where I was working at EY, and that's a lot of high-performing individuals that then have to operate really well in teams together. But you're right, like there's a finite number of promotions every year, and everyone's kind of competing for those same things, but you're also trying to drive team outcomes. So I think it relate. I've seen it in sport, but I've seen it in business as well. What's very interesting about swimming is that you're right, you compete literally against each other for 48 weeks of the year, and then you go to Olympic trials or World Championships trials, and in the 100 freestyle, my event, you select number 1 and 2 as the individual swimmers, and then number 3, 4, 5, and 6 are selected as relay swimmers. So you might come third by 0.1 of a second, and you're not going to get an individual swim in the 100 freestyle. You're now only in the relay. And now all of those people that you were just competing against, those are now your teammates. And you're trying to drive a great outcome all for each other. And that was, it wasn't necessarily a focus previously, like earlier in my career or earlier in my sister's career. Like she was her first ever Olympics she qualified for when she was 15. And she, whether people were doing this on purpose or not, but she felt like everyone was angry at her for taking their spot. Like older people on the team who felt like they were the ones that should have finished in those individual spots, and she came second, and she stole the individual spot out of nowhere, like this little upstart 15-year-old. Whether people meant her to feel like that, who knows? But if there's a silence, you fill it with your worst fears. Especially if you're 15 and you're super shy and you've looked up to these other athletes for a long time. They may have just said nothing to her, and you fill those silences with your worst fears. And so both of us came from understanding that was not a good space for a team to operate in. We then did a lot of work on neurochemistry of teaming and how the feeling of belonging and being part of a team amplifies performance by decreasing cortisol. It's like, okay, great. Well, that's something we can definitely do, especially within the relay team. The other part of it is that, as you said, the ability to tolerate the friction of competition in order to drive better performance. And I think Kate and I were uniquely positioned to model this because we're sisters. We competed in the same event. We trained together, lived together, competed together for, 15 years. And Kate was she was 2 years older than me. She was objectively a better swimmer than me. She still is. I would say her best times are faster than mine, so we can definitely say that. And so I grew up knowing that while that constant comparison was not very comfortable, it wasn't always very pleasant, but that from the time I was 13 years old, I was training with someone who finished third at the Olympic Games in an individual event. I was training with the third best person in the world. I was training with that person. I was living with that person. And so if I could withstand that friction and still find a way to have a personal connection, I knew I would get better, like way better. No, barely anyone else can set in that discomfort for long enough to learn the things that they need to learn. And I knew that. So I'd gone through my career doing that, and then tables changed at different times and I would come out on top, and that was a whole different thing to navigate. But we brought that aspect to the relay team, and I hope we were able to then model that for the team and extend it out. And it's as simple as soon as you finish the race, it's like turning to anyone. It doesn't matter whether the ones that have beaten you or the ones that haven't. You're like, we are a team now. Personally going and congratulating each one of them, giving them a hug, giving them a high five, creating rituals around the team that only us and the team do. And the final point on that is that the competition doesn't stop at trials. The thing that most people don't realize is that in the heats of the relay, you'll normally save number 1 and 2. You'll save them for the final. We've got enough depth in our country to be able to do that. Save them, rest them for the final. And in the heats, you'll swim the people that finished 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. If you finish 3rd and 4th at trials, it doesn't mean you're going into the final at the Olympics. You're competing. Those 4 of you are competing against each other. The top 2 go through to the final. Time,
purely time on the day.
Yes. Yep. So, there's a few little variants because there's time on the day, there's relay changeover time, there's whether you're the person that starts the relay or finishes the relay, how reliable you are at changeovers. There's a few little things like that, but in general, the number one weighted thing would be time on the day. If there's 2 of you that do the exact same time or very similar times, then it's a little bit up to, looking into the other bits, the data points that you need. But if the times are more than 0.2 apart, then you know exactly who it's going to be. So even even on the day when you're competing as a team, you're also still competing against each other in the heat. And that's pretty wild to have that environment, and to be able to stay together during that rather than splintering apart is under that pressure and that disappointment that some members of the team are going to feel. Two of you are going to be disappointed that you're not in the final. That's very difficult to manage as well.
I've heard you, we've been on a panel together before, so I hope it's okay I bring this up, but the story gave me goosebumps, and it was around this team culture and the bonding, and I believe it was around a phrase, so whether this was some of the work you were referring to, and it was the "we've got your back." Can you just share that story, that experience, what that meant, and what that culture and belief led to from a performance outcome?
Yeah, and this is so interesting to me. Like I've learned about this as I've gone through it as well. When I first stepped on the team, if you told me, actually when I first stepped on the team was labeled as a toxic culture. There was a big review into it, and it was our worst performing team. And that didn't make any sense to me, because I was like, who cares what the culture is? How is that going to affect my ability to swim from this end of the pool to that end of the pool as fast as possible? That's all I really want to do. And I don't really understand why we're talking about leadership. I don't understand why we're talking about culture. None of this had any bearing on how I performed. That was my view. I mean, I was only 18, so as I said, didn't know very much.
But also individual sport, it's understandable that you have that, yeah, I'm just here to go A to B, this is me.
Yeah, I'm here to do my job. No one else affects me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until later in my career when I stepped into the leadership group, which I then came on and I was like, well, I know I had these thoughts when I first joined the team. If I'm now going to be standing up and saying culture is important, I'd better have a very good reason for saying it, and I better be able to relate it to performance. And we were very lucky at the time to be able to do some work with special forces and the army, and a lot of the studies that they have done, particularly the commandos that work in team of 6 as highly motivated individuals in a team getting a job done, because that research is really interesting around the neurochemistry of teaming and how the feeling of belonging in a team amplifies your individual ability to perform. It changes
superpower.
Yes, it is. It changes your endocrine profile. If you can be in what they coined a collective challenge state, so that's when your cortisol is high, your adrenaline is high, and your adrenaline is high, your oxytocin is high, and your cortisol is low. So you're in a stressful environment, but you're not getting cortisol flooding through your body and turning off your prefrontal cortex. And the way to do that is to increase oxytocin. If your oxytocin is low in that stressful environment, your cortisol will go straight back up again and you won't be able to think. And there's a lot of stress that goes through your body. You can literally take someone's blood and tell how stressed they are. And you can change that by creating an environment that fosters oxytocin, which is basically creating an environment where people feel like they belong. And the great thing about this is you can do it with people without them ever realizing it. Eye contact, synchronized movement, physical touch, massive ones for all increasing oxytocin. And then rituals, common enemy. Those are like other things you can build in. We don't focus so much on common enemy. We tend to focus more on the rituals. And so we created with the team, we found the team really did not like the phrase, like, good luck. And then nobody really knew what to say to a team member when they came back after competing. So you're in the team environment, you go out, you compete alone, you come back. If you've done well, everyone knows exactly what to say to you and they just embrace you. And great job, good work. It feels great. If you come back and you're bitterly disappointed and nobody knows what to say to you, there's just a silence and a backing off. And again, you fill that silence with your worst ever thoughts. I'm worthless. I'm only here because of my performance. Nobody values me if I can't perform. Like these sort of deep,
your harshest critic.
Things. Yes, you are. Like you're suddenly like, well, I must be worthless to these people because every person is avoiding me. And it's like this deep deep built psychological thing of we need to belong to a tribe to survive, and it feels like your tribe is rejecting you.
We were in our cave and we need our people.
Literally, if you are ousted from your tribe, you could die.
Yeah.
Like there's a
survival.
Yes, it is. It's like hardwired into us that we need our people, and to then feel that rejection on top of the disappointment is just a spiral and a compounding thing, which is so awful. So we're like, okay, we need a ritual that we can do that lets people know that they're part of the group again. And that was where Got Your Back came from. It came from within the team, and it was got your back or a clasp on the shoulder or both. And it was something we could say as people were leaving and going out and competing. It was something we could say when they came back, no matter what the result was. And it was very powerful. It was very powerful for quite a number of years. The future generation will have to come up with their own version of this, because it's only powerful for, I feel like these sort of things are only powerful for the people that are part of the creation and a few other people that come in. And then it needs to change as it evolves on. And then tying it directly to performance. This is a story I really love. Is it's actually my sister's story, but she competed in the 50 freestyle in Tokyo. She was very unhappy with that race, and I feel like she came 5th or 6th, and Emma McKeon won. And I was in the team area when she came back, and every single person turned to Emma and gave her a hug, and then they turned to Kate and said, I got your back. And she talks about how anxious she was, how upset she was walking into that team area, feeling like she'd let the team down and let herself down. And then how quickly that shifted her mindset straight back to being like, oh, okay, this is fine, I'm safe. And why that's important is she had another job to do. 30 minutes later, she had to get up and compete in the relay team, in the women's 4x100 medley relay team. And she was like, it just clicked that like, okay, great, I'm regulated again. I go do my warm down and I get up and go behind the blocks. The USA were the world record holders in the event. They're the fastest qualifiers. And it came to the final leg, and Kate could see Emma McKeon, who was our butterflyer, swimming in towards her. And when you do a relay changeover, you never see them touch the wall. You have to leave before they touch the wall. You have to get moving.
Anticipate.
Yes. So your feet still have to be on the block by the time their hand touches the wall. The margin for error that you're allowed is minus 0.04. If you go below that, you're disqualified. And Kate saw Emma coming in towards her. She saw the Americans who were already in front at this point. And she was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to push this faster than I should. So, like normally we aim for about a 0.2 changeover because we know that's safe, but it's also quick. And she was like, no, I feel confident enough that this team loves and accepts me. I feel confident enough that they trust me, and they will have my back regardless of result, and I'm going to take a risk here, which, to be clear, is not the risk between coming first and second. It's the risk between possibly winning or being disqualified, and everybody loses their medal. She's like, well, it's risky, but I'm going to go for it. And to decide in that moment, under that pressure, her changeover time was 0.04.
Right on it.
Well, minus 0.04 is, but yes,
okay,
it's 0.08 away from being disqualified. To be clear, when you blink, that's about 0.06. So it's like, it's not
less
big.
than a blink.
It's very small, like not recommended. She's also trained with Emma for years, and so trusts her implicitly to touch the wall properly, which is another big part of it. Australia's changeover time, 0.04. America's changeover time, 0.4. And we won by 0.2.
Oh, wow.
We didn't swim faster than them. If you added up the entire changeover times, none of us swam faster. Every single one did a faster changeover, and we ended up winning based on changeovers, which are based on trust. So that
tingles again.
I love this story because it shows that, yes, it's about high performance. Yes, it's about being good at your job, but there has to be a time when you rely on each other and make decisions under pressure. And if you do not have trust and foundation in those moments, you end up like the Americans. There was a very young swimmer in there, and especially in their breaststroke, there was a young swimmer, and they did slow changeovers because they wanted to be safe, which is totally fair. But
the difference.
Yes, it's the difference. It's the difference between a gold and silver medal at the Olympics.
But even as you're talking about here, and even honestly tingles again, and I've heard the story before, so I like it's such a I guess we're sitting here person to person, you know, that's this sharing, it's this connectedness, but it fundamentally what I'm hearing, which is a lot of what people are missing right now, which is feeling safe, trusting, you know, their workplace, having job security, performing in the, like, how can we perform when we're sitting on edge worried about cuts that are going to be made? And I was on a panel last night around all of this, and there were people there who own this space talking about some of the stories on the layoffs and being at companies for 10, 15, 20 years and people just getting an email, not even from a manager and not even a conversation, which is the complete opposite of everything that you've just spoken about here. And I think if there is just this trust, communication, you know, safeness, acceptance, then that performance outcome comes. And sitting here now, I guess you're in the phase of building a business, and I have no doubt that the culture of that business will be incredible. But take us through your early stages, what you've been navigating, how it came to be. How did you go, I'm an Olympian, I'm now going to be a co-founder of a sustainable activewear company?
It's not a very natural leap, to be honest. And most people were like, wait, you've come from sport, which is very high pressure and uncertain, and you're now moving into startup world. Like, why wouldn't you seek a little bit more security?
Yeah.
And I have done jobs in big business before, and it is more secure, but it's also less creative, and there's less room to move and just kind of try things out and be able to do that. And I'm really passionate about Earthletica. We build all of our gear with recycled fibers that are tested for chemicals. I'm really passionate about what that means for women in particular and women's health, doing better for them, doing better for the planet, being able to tailor make these garments so that they stand up to a really hardcore workout, but they're also having less impact on the planet and less impact on women's hormones. And that's really important to me. But it's also a very difficult road, and I'm aware of that. And I think there's something about getting up every day and trying to do a difficult thing that's very exciting to me. And it's invigorating. I'm at the other end of the curve. When I was swimming and in training, I was working on mastery. I was working at getting a tiny bit better at something that I was really, really good at. While running your own business, you're working on like the basics of everything. And what's great about that is you see dramatic improvement over a short period of time. What's terrible about that is like I spend quite a lot of time in what I call I call it the competence gap. And that's the gap between my vision for what I think I should be able to do and what I'm actually capable of currently doing. And there's sometimes a gap there. And now that we are a bigger company and we've raised and I can get other people to fill that gap when I need it, it's so much better and things are running a lot smoother. But you just have to be, same with like the friction of competition, I have to be able to be comfortable enough to sit in that gap, which is uncomfortable, and just keep trying to close it as much as possible, rather than just being like, this feels difficult, so I have to stop. So I guess I'm passionate about what I'm building, but I'm also passionate about the process of building, which is actually very similar to training and racing. I love racing. It's the best. It's the best feeling in the world. I just love it so much. If I didn't find a way to love training, I wouldn't be able to race. So it's sort of like the same thing, like the business and building Earthletica into being something that's great for many women across the world, changing the entire way the activewear industry operates. That's the racing, but that's just going to be an output of the training, which is the building and doing the work. And I have to fall in love with this piece of it, or I'm never going to get that piece of it.
I love that. It's for me, it's a complete parallel. I can see, the mindset of an elite athlete, and this is the work of Athletic Ventures and investing in startups and founders, because that tenacity, that pace, that relentless pursuit of more, willingness to go above and beyond, that growth mindset, look, a lot of people can possess those things, but they're two groups of exceptional people doing some pretty exceptional things. Can you just share a little bit more? Because I don't know if people are actually aware of the activewear industry and this problem that you're trying to solve. Can you just actually share a bit more about how things have been done and what you're wanting to do and why?
Yeah, I guess I forget that, because I've been aware of the problem for a while, I forget that it's actually new to a lot of people. And it came about when I first realized that most activewear is made just using completely new plastic. How you take a new plastic and you make it into a fiber that's soft enough to wear on your body is treating it with really, really harsh chemicals. So there's two problems with that. The first one is the creation of new plastic. There's 42 million tons of plastic waste created by the activewear industry every year. I'm not talking about the fashion industry, I'm talking about the activewear industry. 42 million tons is a lot of new plastic and waste created every single year. And then you've got the chemical treatments that go on top of that. And I think people are starting to see this a little bit more. It's getting a little bit more attention now. And that's the chemical treatments that are put on the clothing, then sitting close to your skin, which is a semi-permeable membrane, particularly when you're hot and sweating, and some of those chemicals then entering your bloodstream. Some of these chemicals like PFAS are forever chemicals and they're never going to break down. So the ability to be able to test for those chemicals. So all of our products are OEKO-TEX 100 certified, which means that a third party has tested them and found them to be free of harmful levels over 1,000 chemicals. So that's really important to us.
Yep.
And then being able to use as much recycled fibers as possible. So we use recycled post-consumer waste, so things like fishing nets from the ocean or plastic water bottles that have never been used. You can recycle those into fabric and recycled fabric scraps as well. Recycle those into the fabric and then using organic cotton in things like outerwear, where the stretch and compression enables us to use that. It's probably the hardest part about the space, to be honest, is that I would love to say that there's a completely synthetic free solution, but I haven't found it yet. We're looking all the time. What we can do is do better than what's standard for the industry. We can do better than that. And we really believe that better never rests. And you just keep doing better all the time to get to the place that you really need to go. And on a very basic level, like if you think about anything that sits close to your skin, anything that has stretch and compression that uses elastane, and elastane is a synthetic fiber. Think about like this jumper that I'm wearing, which is wool. Like this is not going to like go back to its normal shape. It's not going to be able to withstand a sweaty session. It's not going to be able to withstand the sort of sessions that I used to do in the lead into Paris Olympics. It's not going to withstand an Olympic session. So there's a real balancing act between what can we do better for ourselves and the environment while still making this product functional. Because a product that doesn't do the job it's supposed to do or breaks down too quickly is also not a sustainable product. And we keep trialing new fabrics and new products to make sure that we can find something that sits in that space where the quality is still absolute, but we can say that we've tested for chemicals, we're doing better for the environment. And probably the last part of that is the recycling at the end. So if we can use recycled at the start, give the product a really long life, and then at the end of its life, we partner with apparel and they can recycle the product into other products. And that's really important as well. Try and get it as circular as possible. Complete garment to garment recycling in activewear doesn't yet exist. When that does. There is so much innovation happening here. Like people really care about this, and they care about it because the way that we currently produce is not going to be sustainable in the future. And it won't even not be sustainable. It won't be possible. The world cannot continue to support this level of production in the way that production is happening. It has to be done differently. So there are a lot of amazing companies and amazing people who are investing heavily in this and driving that future. We just want to align with them and be the first people to show the way there. And I'm not even necessarily having a go too much at the big legacy companies. They started in a time when these sort of technologies were not really able to be accessed. And now, even if they want to change their entire supply chain and build a sustainable supply chain from scratch like we have, it would take so long for them to get all of their suppliers on the same page that it doesn't feel necessary to them. It feels like it would kill their business. And so that's where we step in and we're like, we're going to show you how to do this. And one day I would love to get to the point where Earthletica is such a big and successful company, and then we can be like, this is our supply chain. This is how we do it. You guys can do it too. There's no excuses anymore. And yeah, I think that's the ultimate goal, is to lead the way for the entire industry and prove out that it is possible to have quality, innovation, sustainability exist together in the same company and the same product.
What a mission, you know.
It's a big one.
Yeah. I mean, if there's anyone who has the vision for it and the capability to figure out what is required to do that, I have no doubt it's the full-time Olympian sitting across from me who's navigated so much in that phase of your life and now moving into this one. So excited to watch and support. And yeah, I guess as we get close to the end, you know, I'd love to know, the thought running through my mind is, what does a day look like for you right now? Like, how has that shifted, and how much routine have you created for yourself, and how much do you just go with the flow because you've done that for so long?
Oh, routine's very nice to have.
Yes.
When I first stepped out of swimming, I was like, I don't want any routine. I really embraced the chaos. But structure is really important. So I get up at 6:26 unless I have to get up earlier. Last week I had a photo shoot at 4 a.m., which was fun.
Oh, wow.
But
you're like, I know these hours. I know
these ones. I remember this feeling, dark and cold. 6:26. That's it's not even that early. It's a wonderful time for me to get up. 6:26, movement and light straight away. Normally go to the gym, do my rehab exercises, get out of the house. Less great on rainy days, like this morning when I walked out of the house and immediately got rained on, but that's maybe I should have checked the weather, taken an umbrella. And then I've either got Earthletica planning with my co-founder, shooting content strategy for the next few months. We're just building out our event strategy. If we're in product development, then there's a lot of that going on, like looking at the samples, looking at the product for the next year, going back and forth on all the tiny little details, which, to be fair, my co-founder does most of, but I get across the major big pieces. And then I like to spend, if it's Monday, I like to spend 3 to 4 hours of what I would call CEO time, where I've met with everyone, I've caught up with everyone, I've heard what's been happening for the last week or so. And then I've got a notebook full of things, and I sit down and really think about what's important here. What do we need to action? What are the big pieces of work that we need to be done? Who do I know in this space who could be really interesting for me to talk to? This has been quite a new thing for me, blocking out that time. Get so busy doing things that I was forgetting to step back and look at the bigger picture and try and figure out a better way forwards. Maybe I was just very used to everything being on me to do. That's not always the case anymore, which is fantastic. So,
and is that at your desk, or do you do that away, near the ocean or in a creative space? So you that kind of cultivates a different lens.
Yeah, I definitely don't do it around other people.
Yeah,
I have to get away from. If I'm working at Livy's, get away from that. And I don't love doing it at home either. But depending on the day, sometimes you have to. But yes, very much technology off. Lots of it is written in a book or from the written book to a computer when I need to. And using the computer as looking at stats and stuff that I need to look at, but not using it as another email's popped in, turn off all those notifications and have that deep time. Sometimes that has to be in a cafe, and sometimes it has to be at home, depending on what I'm doing and also where I need to be next. I can't tell you how much of this work I've done in my car.
Yeah. The mobile office.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's like, okay, I have a meeting in 2 hours time and I'll just drive there straight away and then I'll just sit in the car and do this work because it's easier for me to concentrate knowing that I just need to open the door and go to the meeting as opposed to, oh, maybe I have to like leave this time or leave at that time. It's like, just get there, sit there, do the work. So it happens all over.
I love that.
But as long as the notifications are off, that's like a must. That's the only thing that doesn't change.
Deep. Yeah. I've loved this conversation and I'm excited for what's next with Earthletica. Anything else on the horizon, on a life front, holiday, I don't know, things that you've just have been less able to do because you've been training for Olympics your whole life?
Yes, I really desperately do need to book in a holiday. We didn't even do my honeymoon. Our honeymoon. Our honeymoon was me capital raising. So that needs to get booked in. And do you know what's really great about that? Is I don't have to plan it months in advance anymore. This is like training used to be focused around like very specific times, maybe 2 weeks a year that I could actually take off. And now I could decide to do it next month and nobody can stop me. So
enjoy that.
I will.
Enjoy that flexibility. The last question I ask my guests, and you can answer this from, the lens of what feels right at the moment, but everyone I invite on the show is a high performer in their own right, whether it's, an elite athlete, a leader in their field, and they've obviously cultivated rituals or habits that have allowed them to do the things that they do. So I would love to know for you, Bronte Campbell, what 3 things help you stay at the top?
Number 1, embracing curiosity always, which goes with the mindset of not believing that I'm at the top. And constantly questioning things and being open to new ideas. Definitely being interested in other people. Number 2 is recovery, whether that was within the pool or in my business life. Like I have to dedicate time to recovery and prioritize it as much as the work. It's just as important. And then the number 3 bit is joy and finding the joy always. Every day has to have a joyful element. And if I'm getting to the end of the day and I haven't had it, like you need to go out and find a way to create it, because joy for me is the sustainer of passion and longevity, and being able to actually have resilience for me is rooted in having lots of joy in my life. So yeah, those 3.
I love that. Are you happy to share what 1 or 2 of those might be?
The joyful things?
Yeah.
Depends on the day. Go down to my garage, create something out of clay. That's wonderful. That's a great thing to do. Sometimes I get to the end of the day, I'm like, oh, I feel so drained. I'm going to ring my neighbor and say, I'll pick up the goddaughter from daycare today. And then I just hang out with her for like half an hour.
Nice.
She's 2 and she's so cute. And she's just like wants to jump in a puddle. And because I don't have children, it's not draining for me. It's like exciting.
Short period of time.
yeah. Half an hour of just like this like lovely childlike world and wonder that you can be in. Really love doing that. Or I just go for a walk, and I live in Bondi. There's a very tight-knit community there. I get so much joy from going for a walk, and it is so unbelievably rare that I'll go for a walk and I won't run into someone that I know. And just saying hello as you're walking past makes me so happy, which is so super lame. I'm probably one of the only people that really loves small talk. Like I want to stop and talk to someone for 2 minutes and move on. I'm like very, very happy with that. That makes me very excited. And most people don't feel like that. So there's a few different ways, but those are always going to
I was waiting for the ocean, jump in the ocean, but
I mean, that's actually just a given. I do that every day. The feeling of the water closing over your head is the best feeling in the world. So
it's medicinal.
Yeah.
Bronte, I've loved our conversation. Grateful for your time. Also very grateful that you have very kindly endorsed me in my book, which I'm so very grateful for. You and Melissa Doyle are on the cover, so it's a bit of a pinch me moment to see, that. And I've loved our time here together. getting to know you, all the insights. I can't wait to see Earthletica do all the things and then more. And follow along on book 2, chapter 2 of Bronte Campbell.
Thank you, Jess. Thanks so much for having me.
We'll leave it there. I'm sure today's episode has brought a lot of value. If you know someone who you think would like it, please, of course, share it with them. And otherwise, I will be back again next week with another guest episode, helping you not only reach the top, but sustainably stay there. I'll see you all then.